I'm James Shillinglaw for Insider Travel Report and virtual road shows selling adventure and expedition travel. And that's what we're here for today. We have a wonderful panel of great expedition cruise companies and the people that represent them. Many of you, they've been on the panels before that we've done in these shows, and they're wonderful resources to learn how to sell expedition travel. And we're going to get right to it, and we're going to introduce that panel now. First off, we have Kris Enderson, who's the Vice President Sales for Aurora Expeditions. Hello, Kris, and greetings.
Hello, James. It is an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
And next we have Steve Smotrys, who's the Senior Vice President Sales for HX. Or HX Expeditions. I never do. Usually you just do HX.
It's all new.
It's all new.
Everybody's getting used to the name.
Yeah, that's the new. It was the split between Hurtigruten and HX,
That's
and
right.
You're totally expedition travel.
We are.
Welcome, Steve.
Thank you so much, James. Great to be here.
And then we have Toto Vermue, who's the sales account manager for Oceanwide Expeditions. Welcome, Toto. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having us, James.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Kelly Predmesky, who's the Director of National Accounts for Swan Hellenic. How are you, Kelly?
Good, James. Thanks for having me back.
Well, anytime. You can always go be on our panels anytime. So here we go. We're gonna go straight to it, heart of it, and we're gonna start with you, Steve.
Sure.
Can you briefly describe your expedition cruise company and what it offers?
Absolutely. Well, HX Expedition, I think, has created a little bit of confusion because we were formerly part of the Hurtigruten Group, who many might know that. But about a year ago, we separated from our loving sister, former sister, and now our own independent company. And it's just strictly expedition, where Hurtigruten has that coastal Norwegian product. But we are the original expedition company. Been doing this for 130 years, and we're celebrating our 130th anniversary this year. So very exciting. And we really travel, specialize in the polar regions, but also have a ship that's year round in the Galapagos. But really have been the pioneer from an expedition perspective and also from a sustainability perspective, and really pushing the envelope with the whole cruise industry on sustainability efforts. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a
Absolutely. And how many ships total do you have do you operate?
So we have 5 ships, 4 are polar class, and then the 1 year-round Galapagos ship, which is actually run by Metropolitan Touring, who are, we have a 25% ownership stake in Metropolitan Touring, and so they run that whole operation for us.
Okay, great. And that's a wonderful company, and I've actually been on that ship years ago. Now, let's turn to you, Kelly. Tell us a little bit about your company and what it offers. We're talking about Swan Hellenic, which is a historic name too.
Yes, there's actually 70 years behind the name Swan Hellenic, but of course we're a whole new company today. New owners bought this heritage brand name in February 2020 and invested heavily in bringing this in a big way to the North American market, starting with building 3 brand new build expedition vessels for Swan Hellenic. So we have 3 vessels that are virtually identical, all less than 200 guests, which of course is huge in our segment. And they really marry the adventure of like a true down and dirty expedition with the 5-star service and accommodations. And what we're really building our brand around, of course, is our tagline, "See what others don't," which, right, I mean, is such a great, strong impact statement to tell you exactly who our clients are. But we're really going all over the world. The polar regions, of course, we're going to talk about today are our bread and butter, but we have some of the most innovative voyages going up the entire west coast of Africa.
Yeah.
We just announced this summer we're going into Asia and the South Pacific to Papua New Guinea, Rajan Pat, the Philippines, Japan. We're going into the Amazon of Brazil. So we really have the world covered and are doing some pretty creative itineraries.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And we actually just wrote about that Raj diving today,
Yes.
I think. It seemed like a really interesting itinerary. Now, Kris, I've known you a long time and various things, and you've started to find your place, your sweet spot now with Aurora Expeditions, right?
I sure have.
Tell us a little bit about the company.
Yeah, I sure have, James. This company is just absolutely spectacular. A lot of people are just learning about Aurora, and we've in fact been bringing our guests to the polar regions, celebrating our 35th anniversary this year. We actually we're founded by the legendary explorer Greg Mortimer, who started to bring his friends down into Antarctica, and the company now has grown to being a polar operator. Primarily in the polar regions. However, we are branching out a little bit into some small ship Mediterranean cruises and doing some other things around discovery types of expeditions. But we've been doing this a long time. Our ships are, small ships, smallest fleet, I should say, a fleet of smallest ships in the industry with just 130 guests on each of our ships, which really highlights the experience that we're able to deliver with offering more landings per day, multiple landings a day for our guests. We have a very comprehensive activity program, which I know we'll get into. But we've been doing this a long time, and we're the only B Corp company in the water. And so it really speaks to our commitment of sustainability, giving back to the planet, and really pioneering to be the leaders in responsible travel. And that was really the premise of why Aurora was founded. Our founder, Greg, just found that when you go to these regions, you're changed. And we ultimately and organically end up creating ambassadors for the planet. And that's really how the company was founded and built over the past 35 years.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you're going to find all of the companies here are endorsers of sustainable travel, and really it's a great way to understand it, especially when our polar caps are melting, and some of them may we not see for a while. Certainly in our lifetime we can see them, but we'll see what happens in the future. Hopefully they'll still be there. Now, Toto, Oceanwide, tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Oceanwide Expeditions is a Dutch company. Our headquarters is in the Netherlands, but we are completely international. We have a reservation office in Houston, Texas, and sales managers scattered all over the world. It's a family-owned company, and we currently operate a fleet of 4 vessels, and they are all owned by Oceanwide. I always find that important to note. So everything from, well, of course, the sales reservations, but to the operational part, the activities, the technical department of the vessels, the crew, the staff that we have working on board, it's truly arranged within that Oceanwide family. So the current fleet that we operate with is the Rembrandt van Rijn, our sailing vessel. She sails up in the Arctic, does not go down to Antarctica, and she has a capacity of 33 passengers. Then we have the Plantius and Ortelius with 108 passengers. And our purpose-built ship, our newest ship, the Hondius, she is the largest that we have with 170 passengers. So as you can see, still all very small style, expedition style vessels.
Fantastic. All right. So there you get a little of the description of all these wonderful companies on this panel. We're going to talk now, and we are going to. What cruises do you offer? Most of these offer Antarctica and Arctic. Actually, Kelly mentioned that Swan Hellenic goes all over the place, and that's true. But let's talk a little bit about the Antarctica or Arctic cruises that you offer, and what different kinds of cruises you offer, because there's not just one cruise to these places, and they're different kinds. We're going to start with you, Kelly, in terms of those polar regions. What kind of options do our travel advisors have to book?
Gosh, there's so many, and it all depends on how much time you have and what your budget is.
Wait, we have a couple hours here. I don't know. You want to just keep going, and we'll just hang out for the rest of the afternoon, right?
Yeah, I mean, our classic Antarctica starts at 9 nights. I mean, that's really popular, and for people who maybe are still working and want to go take an epic expedition like this, we can make it happen for them in under 2 weeks. And with the 9 nights, It gives you about 4 days on the peninsula for Zodiac cruises and hikes and kayaking and snowshoeing. Of course, we have a slightly longer version with 10 nights, so you get 5 nights on the peninsula. And then we have some other itineraries that go into other parts of Antarctica. We have an 11-night Weddell Sea expedition, which of course carries Shackleton's history and slightly different landscapes and bigger ice and grandeur. And then we do cross the Antarctic Circle on our 13-night expeditions if you really need to be the person to create FOMO and really check that off your list. And then if you want the whole shebang, we have our 17-night expeditions that also explore the sub-Antarctic region, doing South Georgia and the Falkland Islands and really following Shackleton's footsteps that shows you different sides of flora and fauna in the region. But we also just recently introduced like the end all be all 32-night expedition from Ushuaia to Dunedin, New Zealand, that is doing a Western circum-semi-navigation of Antarctica going all the way down to the Ross Sea, which is pretty epic. And the Arctic, we have like 13 different itineraries exploring different parts of the Canadian Arctic to Greenland, Iceland, Svalbard, and the Norwegian coastline above the Arctic Circle. And those start from 7 nights, our Svalbard expedition. So, there's really something for everyone to do an epic polar expedition with Swan Hellenic.
Absolutely. Well, between your company and Steve's, I thought Shackelford was on one of your ships. You've both been around for a while, so I thought he took Shackelford started on that, right? And yes, Shackelford is something everyone has to know about if you're going down to Antarctica or the Arctic, because he was an incredible explorer. Now we're going to go to Kris. Talk a little bit about the cruises that you offer, polar ones, for and the different ones, because you do have some different itineraries.
Yeah, that's really what we're known for, right? Is really offering some quite unique itineraries across the polar regions. Just to give you an idea of the breadth and scope of our itinerary offering, in Antarctica, we offer 51 voyages now open for sale through 2028 across 18 different itineraries. And some of those include our newest ship, which we just launched in November, the Douglas Mawson, which is now departing from Hobart down into the subantarctic, East Antarctic islands, as well into the Ross Sea, which we're very excited about. We've got some amazing epic Antarctic voyages where our guests can go for 33 days and really have that truly immersive, complete Antarctic experience. We go down into the Falklands and South Georgia, of course. We actually have a voyage that follows Shackleton's footsteps. So you can literally follow along his journey, which is very intense. Some people think, oh, that sounds like a lovely day hike. It's a lot more intensive than that. And then we offer some really cool voyages around active Antarctica voyages. Aurora, we haven't talked about this yet, but one of the things we're known for is our comprehensive activity program. And so our guests on these voyages can paddle, snowshoe, snorkel, and camp all on the same voyage. And our voyages, really run anywhere from 8 days all the way up to those 33 days. We offer fly voyages, fly sail. So a really comprehensive Antarctic offering. And then the Arctic, 28 voyages through 2027 across 15 types of itineraries, anywhere from East Greenland, Iceland, Svalbard in depth, Spitsbergen. We do some discovery voyages around the Norwegian fjords and Scotland, doing some really cool things around there in the Arctic as well. We've got our Jewels of the Arctic, Under the Northern Lights. So really offering a very complete offering in the polar regions. Of course, that's what we're known for. That's where we're the experts. So a lot to offer our guests. And of course, the ships are small, so they're able to really have that immersive experience.
Well, my business partner, Alan, actually did that snorkeling, and I got cold just thinking about it. So I don't know. I did 3 Antarctica cruises, but I never did that.
Not even a thing. Not even a thing. You're not cold. It's crazy.
So let's move to you, Toto. Tell us a little bit about the itineraries and that you offer in the polar regions.
Absolutely. So Oceanwide sails solely in the polar regions. Up in the Arctic, we sail the European Arctic. As our headquarters are in the Netherlands, in between the seasons, so the summer seasons, we sail up north from May through September approximately, and then from November through March, we're down south in Antarctica. In between those seasons, the ships always come back home to the Netherlands for maintenance, renovations, anything that needs to be done. And then at the beginning of the Arctic season, our ship departs from Vlissingen, the Netherlands. Passengers can come on board there, or they can choose to come on board in Aberdeen, and we have a repositioning cruise up to Svalbard. In Svalbard, we have multiple itineraries, North Svalbard, up north into the pack ice, or a circumnavigation of Svalbard. Some trips are more focused on the wildlife, on the polar bears. Some are going to be more focused on the land activities, so long hikes that have been implemented in our voyages. We sail to Greenland as well, and in that northeastern part of Greenland, we are truly a wildlife, nature-focused company, so that's why we try to stay in that northeastern part of Greenland with a little bit of culture into those voyages. But the further west you go, the more inhabited places you'll find, and we try to not run into any other human beings, just other wildlife. And we have recently added on a couple of itineraries in Iceland, and that's northeast, northwest Iceland, so Iceland more off the beaten track. Our Antarctic voyages, multiple trips down to the Antarctic Peninsula, with one being our base camp. And that's something that Oceanwide invented back in 2012. So all the activities that we include in those voyages, so mountaineering, snorkeling, photo workshop, camping, kayaking, they're all included in the price. And we'll aim for everybody on board to do each activity at least once. So that's something that kind of stands out, appeals also to the more adventurous type passenger. We also have our Falkland Islands, South Georgia itinerary, crossing the polar circle. But each season, we do also try to add in something that is completely different, something that other operators are not doing. So one of which is actually last year, we did that for the first time. This is a polar crossing voyage all the way down to Wilkins Ice Shelf, very late in the season, and trying to spot those southern lights. So a lot of people are familiar with the northern auroras, right, but we have them down south as well. So that's what we aim to do. Each season, we really do try to add in something that you can only find on board Oceanwide.
Wow, that's something I did not know about the Southern Lights. So that's everybody's crazy about the Northern Lights, but it's good to know there's an alternative just in case you don't see them. So that's great. Now, Steve, tell us a little bit about the itineraries that HX offers in the polar regions.
Well, starting with Antarctica, you're going to see a lot of similar itineraries. I think everybody who sails down to Antarctica is going to do some similar and have some nice variety. We've got 3 ships down there. We actually are the largest operator in Antarctica. We take more guests to Antarctica than anyone else. And it's 3 different ships that are down there, and it's including our 2 hybrid electric ships that both operate down there at the same time. And so we've got really a great variety of different itineraries to choose from, everything from 11 to 23 days. So I think as some of my colleagues here have mentioned, doing things like 11 days, which is really popular because it's a little less time for people to take. And we call that the highlights of Antarctica. We've talked to our guests and found out what they like the most, and that tends to always be the most popular. But we always want to create a lot of variety. Even though some people will say, "Oh, Antarctica is a one and done," absolutely is not. There's so much to see down there. I think every single one of us would go over and over again without hesitation. But we also go up into the Falkland Islands and South Georgia, and also go down below the Antarctica Circle. So create a nice variety of choices for our guests. And then moving up to the Arctic, we've got so much going on up there as well. We've got 4 ships every year that are doing various itineraries. So everything from Svalbard, Greenland, Iceland, Norway. We just started our Norway season, which we do during Q1 on Spitsbergen, and that's sold out completely. And it was really, it's a little bit new itinerary, but we wanted people to have the best opportunities to see Northern Lights, and so really excited about sending guests up there. And then, of course, the Arctic Canada, Alaska. I think sometimes Alaska gets kind of lost in the shuffle because it's considered a mainstream itinerary. But we have a ship there all summer, and there's such great itineraries that you can do, really exploring little fjords up there, going to off the beaten path ports. We're not going to Ketchikan and Skagway and Juneau. We're not going to any of those places. We're going to really small off the beaten path places and working with the local communities up there. And then Northwest Passage, we do 2 of those every year. Those have become extremely popular itineraries. But Greenland is someplace that we've really leaned into. We've got a lot of great relationships with the local Inuit communities. We've worked with the Inuit elders to help us design our itineraries, just really leveraging their expertise of their homeland and a lot of experiences in their communities that they've helped put together. And we don't take any, these are optional itineraries. They're not included. So for guests who want to try something different when we go to these communities, and we don't take any margin on that. We give that all back to the local community. So again, part of our sustainability efforts up there.
Fantastic. Those are great wide. As I said, there's not just one polar expedition to do these places. There's several different ways to do this. So that's a great variety. And so you got to talk to every one of them and find out what your client really wants to do, and also what they want to do again. Because you can go back, and having been to Antarctica 3 times in 1 year, I can tell you you can do a lot of different things all the way. And that leads me to my next question, actually. And I'm going to start with you, Kris. What makes for a great polar expedition cruise? What should travel advisors tell their clients about it? That some people come to them and they said, I want to go to Antarctica, but that as we're hearing today, there are so many different ways to experience it, so many different things. But what makes for a great polar expedition cruise?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's important that our advisors understand each of our products and what makes our experiences different from each other. And then understanding what their client is looking to do and what type of experience they're looking to have in that region. For instance, at Aurora, if they've got clients that are very active, they love to hike, they're looking to have a truly immersive experience where you're off the ship all day, pretty much every day, doing and wanting to have, truly an active experience where you're on the Zodiacs all day. You're out exploring these regions, for hours at a time. You're not being rushed on shore and then rushed back onto the ship to take turns to the next group. If they've got clients that are really looking to have those types of experiences, Aurora is the perfect fit for them. If they've got clients that want to, experience that dry suit and snorkel or kayak, you can scuba dive on Aurora and have, participate in those activity type of programs. That's, what Aurora, that's the perfect experience for Aurora. So it's really, sizing up the client, and it's not all about activity level. It's about spirit and mindset, right? So on Aurora, we welcome families, kids from age 8. Well, we've had 90-year-olds on board. As long as you're mobile and you want to be active, we offer different levels of activity, but that really is who we are. So if their clients are really adventurous in spirit, want to have that truly immersive experience in these regions, that's what we're all about. So it really is all about qualifying their clients and really sizing them up to the right experience, because we're all unique and different and great in our own ways. And some of us, stand out in different ways. So I think it really is understanding the client. And to your point, listen, we all would go, I was complaining to you that I can't go this year, right? Our ships are full. I can't get there. We would all be there time and time again. So there's different ways to have these experiences as well. And I think some people may only go there once. So really ensuring that they're having that experience that they expect to have, I think is the most important. Because if you do it and you do it right, chances are they're going to come back and say, that was so amazing. I never thought I'd say this, but I can't wait to go back. So,
well, that's it. We all think of Antarctica or the Arctic as once in a lifetime experiences, but it doesn't have to be. So, because there are other options. And let me turn to Toto. Same question about, what from your experience makes for a great polar expedition cruise? What should advisors be telling their clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I believe that polar expedition cruises are really driven by exploration rather than that fixed itinerary. So it is, well, of course, what Kris said, it's very important to find the right passenger for the right ship. Absolutely. But that flexibility part in expedition cruising is so important, whether it is weather condition, ice conditions, or to maximize the experience to see specific wildlife or nature. So that flexibility is extremely important, and it is always used to maximize the experience for the passenger. So the crew, the staff that work on board are truly the ones that make a trip. They work every day extremely hard to look at the weather conditions. What is it going to be like? Are we going to be able to do that landing tomorrow morning, or do we have to venture out elsewhere and try it in the afternoon? So it's really an exploratory trip for the passengers just as much as it is for the crew and the staff that work on board.
That's a good point, and it really is that each cruise can be very different. Even the same cruise can be very different.
Definitely.
I'm going to turn to you, Steve. Again, sort of the same question. What makes for a great polar expedition cruise, and how should travel advisors really explain the differences that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think sometimes the word expedition does intimidate some people, and they don't realize they're expedition people. And I think all advisors should realize you absolutely have expedition clients in your database. You just may not know it, and they come in a lot of different forms. But I think if it's somebody who's curious, they love nature. These places are unlike anywhere else on the planet, and you don't have to be super fit. I know we show a lot of marketing imagery of going on snowshoeing and big hikes and big adventures, and you can do that, but you don't have to. They do such a great job of curating different levels of experiences. And look, the biggest experience is going out on Zodiacs and doing landings,
Right.
and you don't have to be super fit to be able to do that. And so, I think it's important to remember that you don't, accessibility. Don't rule somebody out based on that or fitness level. But I think what also makes is for a great polar experience is flexibility. I think somebody mentioned it. You got to have a flexible mindset as a guest going in, because it's not going to be a set itinerary. Things are going to change, weather's going to change, and that's where the experience of the team comes into play. Captains who have navigated down to these destinations for many, many years and know all the intricacies and the nuances of these of how things change and where the alternatives if you need to pivot and go someplace else. And then expedition team. That's something we take a lot of pride in. We're one of the only companies that employs our expedition team leaders as full-time employees. 70% of all of our expedition team are full-time employees. And, having experienced, just really well-educated expedition leaders, they really enhance the experience in so many different ways. And then the last thing I would mention is multi-gen families. It's a great experience for that. We take kids as young as 5 years old, but I'm seeing more and more of the both solo travelers and multi-gen families that are coming and booking with us. So it's great that it's expanding in terms of the audiences that we're starting to touch, and I think more and more people are going to realize that this is the ultimate experience.
Okay, and Kelly, I'll let you close that one out. Then I have a thought about what we're going to do with the next question. But Kelly, in your case, what makes for a great expedition cruise? I mean, what should advisors sort of try, how they can sell it? I mean, if you're talking to a client who is thinking about it but really has no idea what they're going to get, what do you say to them?
I think what makes a polar expedition so amazing is when you have operational excellence, remarkable hardware, and next level immersion and education all come together on an equal playing field, because that is what makes an expedition amazing. And at Swan Hellenic, we're really fulfilling all of those areas in a big way. to give you an idea of the people we have behind the scenes at Swan Hellenic and our expedition operations team, they're so impressive who we have pulling the strings at Swan Hellenic. One of our expedition operations managers, her name is Jane Wilson. She's been working on ships in Antarctica for 30 years. Of course, as a woman working in Antarctica 30 years ago, I mean, she's like a real pioneer. And before she joined Swan Hellenic, she was actually an auditor for IATO. So we are operating at the highest levels of safety, security,
That's
sustainability.
that's the Polar Association, right?
Yeah. So we have her on our side. And then the other guys, that's her peer, AJ, he is literally a true polar explorer who's the 12th Brit in history to solo ski to the North and South Poles. He's been on multiple solo and team expeditions to both the North and South Poles and a big educator. And so we have such an impressive team behind the scenes who are training our expedition guides to make the magic happen and curating the content that we have on board to educate our guests and share with them their expertise. But our hardware is also amazing. We actually have two PC5 polar class vessels, which puts us head to head with the biggest, polar operators out there, both 152 guest passenger vessels, which is allowing us to deliver these incredibly immersive experiences for your clients who want the most time off the ship in the destination. And that's not for everyone. Like Kris was saying, you really have to line up what type of experience your clients want. Right. But for the people who want to have the opportunity to be as active as possible, Swan Hellenic is really delivering that true expedition experience. But we're doing it in complete comfort. I mean, you have an electric fireplace in your stateroom when you come back.
I think for all the companies you see here, that it's very comfortable accommodations from my experience. Everyone offers incredible. You're not going to rough it once you're on the ship. That's what's incredible about it, is that you can go off into the wilds and then come back and have a wonderful meal and relax and actually have Wi-Fi now. I hear it's even better now that it
crazy.
So it's not like you are on an expedition and you'll be with Shackleton. You can be where Shackleton was, but you're not going to be having to deal with the conditions.
The accommodations have improved greatly.
Thank goodness, I tell you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have an industry. But and Toto, I wanted to start off the next question with you, and I really want sort of fast track. We've talked about it a lot. Give me the quick down summarize. Who is your client, and what's the age range? Do you accept families? Are these good for families with older kids? Can solos go? Tell me, what is this target client?
Definitely. So it is absolutely international. We have passengers that come on board our ship from all over the world. Age demographics, I would say approximately between 50 and 70, but we have seen a change. Also with our base camp trips, we've noticed that younger passengers come on board those trips. Indeed, what Steve was saying, more families are joining with younger kids that are coming on board. So multi-generation families that are coming on board. So we are seeing a shift in that. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
I asked if families were going to be part of it. Yeah, you answered that. So there are families and there's solos as well, right?
And solos as well. So absolutely. We have all solos that book with us, they can book the per person price that they see on our website, which is on sharing basis. So there's no additional charge there, only if they want the cabins to themselves.
And you do, because you are based in Europe, you do have as you mentioned, that was interesting. You have an international clientele, and everybody does do that, but we are starting to see a lot more Americans for some brands, that's for sure.
I do have to say that indeed for our Antarctica voyages, that North America is definitely one of our top markets.
Yeah, well, it's a long way to get down there. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
I know that it is an expedition just to get there, so we'll see. Now, let me shift to Steve again very quickly. What is that target client, and who can go? You were one of the first to mention families, and I was happy to hear that, because I know that families are with older kids. They're amazed by what they see.
Oh yeah, for sure. We also have the largest science centers at sea, and I think that's one of the things that's attracting more and more families because there's that curiosity and that interest in the science, and to this extent where we actually have real scientists coming on board and doing research. So we donate about 2,000 cabins per year to scientists doing active research, and they share they. Our guests can go and interact with them in the lab right there. They'll do lectures for us and things like that. So, look, it's at the end of the day, it's about the curious traveler. It's the person who really wants to immerse themselves in these destinations, and it's not just about going there. It's about the enrichment that you'll get in going there. I always think when I'm talking to advisors, like, trying to help them identify those people again in their database. And so, what I've seen over kind of the last 5 years of being in the expedition space, it's the obviously the real kind of obvious one, low hanging fruit is somebody who's gone like on a safari or some sort of experiential trip like that. Like that's a great one. Those who like cultural experiences, because you've obviously got a lot of those types of things, but it's the same kind of person. And it's people who do like river cruises that crosses over extremely well. Escorted tours, that does really well. Wellness trips, believe it or not. We've got a great wellness center on board, and more and more that whole world is expanding, and people are, why do they go on a wellness trip? They're looking to kind of detach from their normal world and make some sort of personal shift. And what better way to do that than do it on an expedition? So there's a lot of these different, you can bring in experienced cruisers. That seems like the no-brainer, but you could also bring in the person who goes, I'm not a cruiser. I hate cruising. Yeah. Because you can say, don't worry, this isn't a cruise, it's like a safari at sea.
Or you can bring in me who loved your sauna.
Nothing wrong with that sauna.
You can spend the whole time in the sauna, and some of the tips I recall have windows, so you can just watch the world go by. So this is what you can do. Kelly, I'll let you give your example of what. And Swan Hellenic is known as, one of these sort of, we're sort of delved a little bit into the psychographics of the client base, but these are explorers. These are people who want to go see different things and all over the world. But tell us a little bit about your client base and the target, the people that our travel advisors should target for Swan Hellenic.
Yeah, I think our tagline, see what others don't, says it all. Is for people who don't want to follow the crowds. They want to go away from the most crowded places on Earth and forge a different path. And it's for the most curious world explorers. I think that's the best way to state it. And because that's a mindset, it's not a demographic, it's not an age, it's how people want to see and experience the world in the most authentic, sometimes the most off the beaten pathway possible. That's our customer. Now, the data says 80% of our guests are 50 to 70 years old, but there's also a strong subset of millennials because of the adventurous nature of how we're traveling. And that's a growing segment, of course, especially with places like Antarctica and the Arctic and the polar expeditions, which are really the gateway to all of these other small ship cruising opportunities. I call it the gateway drug to small ship cruising.
Okay.
And it opens their eyes for these people who maybe don't consider themselves cruisers, right? But we do accept kids 8 and older. I actually got to go. One of my partners brought his 8-year-old son on a fam to the Arctic, and I got to go in their Zodiac for my very first Zodiac ride. Right. Let me tell you how much more fun my experience was being in a Zodiac with an 8-year-old who was yelling at the expedition leader, "Let's go faster." I was like, yes. It was so fun to see it through his eyes. So there's definitely a great opportunity. And we do get multi-gen families with grandparents, parents, and kids on board. It's not the core of what we do, but there's certainly an opportunity, especially in the polar regions, because of the really educational nature of these trips.
No, absolutely. It's a great kind. And Kris, I'll let you close this one out. What's your target customer for Aurora? I mean, you're going to be on board with incredible expedition leaders, and your founders, as you said, were explorers. So if you don't want to be Shackleton, you can be with Shackleton. Put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And you touched on it there, James. Our E-team is incredible, right? Like much like my counterparts here. But our E-team, they're extremely experienced. They've been in these regions. They've lived in these regions. They have stories that'll just blow your mind, and they're intimately, familiar with these regions. And we've got the highest guest to expedition leader ratio in the industry. So for every 7 guests, we have 1 expedition leader, and these are all the experts you would expect to find on board. And so again, it goes back to mindset, right? It's all about mindset. If you're curious, this is where you want to be, because on Aurora with our team, you're not only learning, you're exploring with them. They're such passionate individuals that engage with our guests and truly connect with our guests. So when you're seeing that amazing pod of beluga whales, you're watching their reaction in as much awe as your reaction. And no question is ever, dumb. And so you really feel like you're exploring with them. And that's really important, because at the end of an Aurora, the saddest day is the last day. And it's not handshakes. It's not thank you for coming handshakes. It's hugs and tears, because, our guests really connect with our team. And going back to families, like I mentioned earlier, kids 8 years and above. But like Steve, we've got a great science program on board. We participate in the citizen science program. So our guests and kids alike can, participate in these great scientific experiments when they're on board, and really learning through that venue as well with our science centers. And then I want to touch on solo travelers, because this is definitely an area that we have really tapped into. We see so many solo travelers on board Aurora that we've actually launched dedicated solo staterooms on our newest ship, the Douglas Mawson, which is really exciting. We've got, 8 of those staterooms that are dedicated for solos. But even more exciting is starting this summer in our Arctic season now coming up, every itinerary on every Aurora vessel, we will be offering 10 staterooms at no solo supplement. So it's first come, first serve. For those first 10 staterooms are at no solo supplement. So again, just seeing a huge uptick in that market like everybody else here. But I think that was important to note as well when you're thinking about who the right, traveler might be.
Okay, we're almost to the last question now, and of course, you're seeing all these wonderful companies in front of you, but you're probably thinking as an advisor, if you've not booked a lot of expedition travel, how do I distinguish between all these companies? And I'm going to ask each of you very briefly just to give the big selling point for your company. What is it? What distinguishes your company from all the rest? Because they're all wonderful. And so I'd like to go on all of your cruises, but that might not be feasible. Although, as we said, you can keep going on more expedition cruises. So I'm going to start with you, Kelly. What distinguishes Swan Hellenic from the rest?
I said this a statement at the very beginning that really captures it. It's that we marry the adventure of a true down and dirty expedition with 5-star service and accommodations in a completely unpretentious way. It's the fact that we have 3 brand new vessels, all less than 200 guests, offering 2 landings per day, but brand new luxury vessels that feel like 5-star boutique hotels. So you don't have to sacrifice on either part. But the focus always remains on the exploration of the destination, the learning and the immersion. The luxury is kind of happening in the background, and we're doing it so well. We have a 4.7 out of 5 stars on Cruise Critic from over 200 guest reviews. So we are really delivering on this proposition.
Absolutely. Now, Toto, what distinguishes Oceanwide from the others in the market? What makes you different?
So Oceanwide is absolutely, an expedition. Of course, we are all expedition companies, but we really try to stay to that expedition core. Our vessels are extremely comfortable. They're spacious, but you won't find any jacuzzis, saunas, or anything like that on board our ships, because we prefer to have the space to have enough Zodiacs on board for everybody to leave the ship at the same time, that nobody has to wait on board, to truly maximize that time on land or in a Zodiac or in the kayak or in which activity passengers would choose. So with that, we have an extensive activity program from indeed scuba diving, snorkeling. We've added longer hikes now so that people have a full day hiking on land in the Arctic and both in Antarctica, helicopter flights down in Antarctica. So that's truly what we emphasize on that expedition part, with a fantastic team of guides and crew. And I do want to echo Kris on this one, because indeed, when our trips are over, people are hugging and have tears to say goodbye to the crew and the staff that's on board.
No, that's wonderful. Kris, what is your selling point, your big differentiator?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to you straight and quick. How's that? We're gonna run through it. Number one, we are a small company with three purpose-built ships. We have the newest fleet of purpose-built X-bow design ships that offer the smoothest ride to the polar regions. We offer more Zodiac landings per day. We offer a comprehensive activity program. So guests, if they would like to, can do all those activities that I mentioned earlier. We have an exceptional e-team that is really there to not only educate, but truly engage and enhance our guest experience, which I call the magic. I think Kelly used that word too. It's true. The magic of Aurora. They are absolutely amazing. I think we've also got just, our B Corp and our commitment to giving back and that responsible travel, going into the communities, giving back to those Inuit communities, like Steve mentioned earlier. We offer all those types of very engaging experiences for our guests as well. And it's really all about more time on the peninsula, because we're so small and our guests can really spend time in these areas. They're getting these landings, but they're also able to roam. I mean, my most recent trip to Svalbard this past summer, I stood in this beautiful pasture along the coast with 20 reindeer almost right next to me and the babies, and just was able to stand there for like 45 minutes and just take it in and really relish in that experience, versus, oh, there are the reindeer, look at that. We got to keep. So we're very different when it comes to just having time. And I think somebody else mentioned too, if we're spotting wildlife, we're going to stay there, right? We're going to watch that experience unfold, to have that true experience, because that's why we're there, right? To take in the wildlife and to see it all in action. I mean, on my trip, we saw 19 polar bears, and our trip was so spectacular. By the end of the trip, our e-leader was like, I don't know what else to do with you guys. You've seen it all. Like, it was truly just mind blowing. And he said, let's all go on an adventure together. Who's up for it? I haven't been to this area. Let's see what we find out. So a bunch of us, we hopped in the Zodiacs and we truly went on in uncharted waters on to an area that had never been explored. And in that afternoon, we literally saw every bit of wildlife you would want to see in the Arctic in that afternoon. And those are the surprises in that exploration and discovery that you get when you're, on somebody like Aurora, and some of my counterparts here as well. But it really is those types of experiences that we're offering. It's all about being guided by nature, the weather, and really being on a true adventure. Every day is a new adventure on it.
And every expedition is a different expedition. That's the thing. Steve, let's close out this one in terms of what makes HX stand out. What is your differentiator?
Yeah, so a few things. One, obviously, 130 years of experience. They're really the creator of this expedition space, and so with experience matters in these destinations for sure. And we think we've curated really what we like to call the perfect balance of expedition, in this balance between adventure, comfort, and sustainability. And some may do over-index in some of those areas a little bit more than us. I think our ships are very comfortable. Actually, I came from a previously, before coming to HX, I was at a luxury expedition company, been on all their ships. And I'd say our hardware is just as nice, if not nicer in some ways. But the service is a little bit different. So others are gonna over-index probably on the comfort. Some have high adventure like helicopters and submarines, and we're not doing that, but we offer a really great breadth of different experiences and adventures, and something for every single activity level. So that balance between the adventure, comfort, and the sustainability. And sustainability is, again, at the core of kind of everything that we do. Kris, I'm so proud of Aurora for C Corp. You guys are the only ones. It's something we are looking at.
It's awesome. That's great.
Because we know this is especially in expedition, it's really important for everybody to really be responsible in everything that they're doing. We are one of the few, along with Aurora, that are self-reporting on our ESG, and our ESG rating is the highest in the industry. And we're one of the only ones that do also a third party to validate those those results. So, we're trying to push everybody else in the expedition space to do that as well. I think it's really important. And then I think the other thing that's unique, James, about us is our ships are a little bit larger than other expedition companies. And I think there's this narrative that's gone around as like you have to go out on a small, tiny expedition ship, less than 200 guests. And some people want that, but this is back to the whole qualifying your guests. And in particular, I'll kind of hone in on our two hybrid ships. So they are a little bit larger. Their capacity is 490 guests, even though we typically only fill them to about 90%, something like that. But so some would say, oh, that's too large. It's going to compromise what you can do. These ships were actually designed to be the next generation of expedition ships. One, we're going to burn less fuel and take more guests to these destinations. So from a per guest perspective, it also, and you're going on these itineraries, there's a lot of sea days. And with the ship being a little bit larger, it does give us some options of different amenities that we can offer. As I mentioned, we've got a great spa and wellness program. We've got 3 different restaurants to choose from. We've got a number of different lounges, infinity pool, hot tub. So there is that comfort element is pretty high. And it doesn't compromise what we do from an experience perspective. In fact, we do things a little bit differently when it comes to doing landings. Instead of going because let's use Antarctica for an example, there's all the landing spots are graded as tier 1 and tier 2. We only go to tier 1 spots. We typically don't do 2 landings in one day. And that's because we want to stay at the very best landing spots, spend the whole day there. Some of our guests may go and do a landing in the morning. Others in the morning may go and do a Zodiac cruise. Others may go do kayak, things like that. And then in the afternoon, everything kind of flips and rotates. Yeah. And then we stay there sometimes into the evening. And some of our guests go and do camping on the ice. And we've expanded that program where we have more tents and more bivy bags that people can go and camp on the ice than anyone else. And so we've really, I think, curated a really well-rounded program. And I think that's what makes it a little bit more attractive for both first-time expedition leader or expedition guests, because there's a little bit more, there's more things that cross over from mainstream cruising. Right. So if you've been on like a Silver Sea or a Regent, the ship's about the same size and you're going to get a lot of similar amenities. So I think that what works really well for guests who are maybe not sure they're interested in expedition, but maybe a little intimidated by the experience.
Wonderful. Now, the absolute lowest question, we go out to 125,000 travel advisors. We're only going out to a segment that has indicated interest in adventure and expedition travel for this show. So these are folks that are actually trying to sell this. So what resources do you have for travel advisors to help them sell more of your polar expedition cruises? What that's your website, your training materials. I'm going to start with you, Toto. What does Oceanwide have in terms of resources that they can turn to?
Absolutely. So we have our website, www.oceanwide-expeditions.com. This is, of course, accessible to everybody. But we also have a portion for our travel agents, for tour operators. That's the partner portal. And in that portal, you can find photos, videos, reels, anything that you would need for your promotion. You can make options there. You can make bookings. You can confirm, make payments. So truly everything can be done in that portal. Additionally, we have an office in Houston with our reservations team. They're always happy to help you out with a reservation, answer any questions you may have. On our YouTube channel, we have some webinars per destination, also additional videos that you can find about these beautiful regions. And I'm also always happy to schedule a one-on-one training session or a training session for your travel agents. Happy to schedule that as well. And one more thing, we have a sales page where you can find all our manuals, expedition page, and that can also be found through our website.
Fantastic. There's a lot of good stuff there. So, and we'll talk about where else you can go at the end of this, because that's why we're here for this virtual roadshow. Steve, what are the resources you have for HX to help travel advisors sell what you have to offer?
So it all starts with our agent portal. So it's agentportal.travelhx. So highly encourage you to go look there where we've got our academy. We've got a lot of different resources. One tool that we've added this year, which you can also find on the portal, is called Approach Guide. And some of you out there may be already working with Approach Guide. It's a great tool. It allows you to leverage all the great marketing assets that we've created and make them all basically your own, like we're co-branding together. So whether that's a social post, whether that's a website, whether it's an email, and anything that they're going to click on that looks like HX would actually come back to you. So it helps you create leads through those different platforms. So highly recommend it. It's called Approach Guide. So definitely take a look at that. We've really invested in our North America team. We've now got 8 BDMs around North America, and then we've got a couple of people on the national account and host agency side of things. So really expanded that team, dedicated marketing, dedicated customer service, all based here in North America. So those are really great ones. And then always great to mention also, we are no NCF. So it's really going to help you from a profitability standpoint.
That seems to be the topic du jour of lately, although it seems to be a topic we keep revisiting. So it's interesting to hear that.
That's right.
Like that. Kelly, what are the resources that Swan Hellenic has for travel advisors to help them sell?
Yeah, of course, we're on Approach Guides as well, as many of my friends here are, which is a great tool. If you haven't looked into it, you really need to. It's going to make your life so much easier and not having to reinvent the wheel when it comes to social media marketing or email marketing. They're doing an amazing job at Approach Guides. We do have a dedicated Facebook group for our travel partners, so you can stay in the know. It's just called Swan Hellenic North America Travel Advisors. And our whole team is participating there, posting our latest promos or training opportunities and selling tips and spotlighting itineraries. And one of the things we're actually actively doing right now throughout wave season is hosting a client-friendly webinar series that's actually meant for our partners to invite your clients to. And we're doing this all throughout wave season, like every 2 weeks. And we post about it in our Facebook group. And this is really meant to drive sales back to you so that we're doing all the work and inspiring your clients to book with you. So look into that. And I think that our most underutilized resource is actually our YouTube channel, because there is so much great video content there. You could sit there and watch expedition videos all day, and it will make your clients want to travel. And even to educate yourself, there's some smaller short form videos, but destination specific. There's even videos of walkthroughs of our vessels. So definitely check out the YouTube channel for Swan Hellenic as well.
Fantastic. And Kris, I'll let you close it out. What are the resources that Aurora Expeditions has to help travel advisors sell more expedition cruises on your line?
Yeah, so we have our travel advisor portion of our website. It's at aurora-expeditions.com. Little tab at the top, click on travel advisors. Boom, you're in. No password, nothing you have to remember. And then in there, our marketing resources. There's a map of the team. I've grown my team here in North America quite significantly over the past couple of years. So there's a map so you can easily reach out to find who your sales director is, which I highly encourage you all to do because they are ready and excited to work with our travel partners. We've got a great res team, of course. I am so glad that Steve and Kelly have mentioned Approach Guide. So thank you. I don't have to go into the details around that. But we really do make it easy for our guests for our advisors to promote Aurora to their clients. And I will say one thing, it's so funny. Like Steve, I flipped from the luxury side of cruise for many years, as you well know as well, James. And what I hear so often from some travel advisors, and it breaks my heart, if I'm being honest, is how they're losing sales for the polar regions because their clients don't know that they can sell a polar trip. And so just by utilizing approach guides, just takes you literally, you sign up within 3 minutes, the content is pushed out, and now you are putting yourself in front of your clients as someone who is a specialist. And if you're not, you know where to go. We've all got the resources for you, right? To go out there and get them to start dreaming, right? Like Steve said, river is the perfect start. Alaska, which Kelly, I call it the gateway drug to the polar regions, right? Like get them dreaming so that they know that that is an opportunity for them down the road. And I think Approach Guys does that great. We have a great dedicated Facebook page as well for our advisors, and just really excited and ready to work with our partners.
Fantastic. And I know David and Jennifer from Approach Guides will appreciate all these great endorsements.
She's doing a webinar with me in a couple weeks, so I'll be doing a dedicated Approach Guides webinar.
They're a lovely couple, and they have a great product, and they've sort of taken the industry by storm recently. So anyway, well, listen, and then another resource, that's why we're doing this, is our own virtual roadshow. And all of you have booths down on the virtual trade show floor where you can get more information and actually make appointments and talk with you directly. So I urge all of the participants here, all of the travel advisors out there that are watching this, to go down to that trade show floor now, actually, whenever, and you'll get all this information and more. I want to thank all four of you for, I think it was a great panel. It's given a lot of insight into where polar expedition travel is today. And thank you again for participating.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm James Shillinglaw for Insider Travel Report and Virtual Roadshows Selling Adventure and Expedition Travel.